Okay, so this deep dive, we're gonna be talking about digital nomadism,
Okay.
and specifically in Hong Kong.
Sounds good.
So, I guess for anyone listening who might not be familiar with what a digital nomad is,
Hmm.
um, it's basically someone who uses technology to earn a living
Right. Hmm.
and is able to work remotely from anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So this could be like freelancers, entrepreneurs, remote employees,
Yep.
and it allows for a lot of freedom and flexibility.
Totally. And it's becoming increasingly popular. I think a lot of people are drawn to that idea of having more control over their lives
Right.
and being able to kind of combine work and travel.
Yeah,
Like why be stuck in an office when you could be working from a beach in Bali
exactly.
or a cafe in Buenos Aires,
Yeah,
or-
or even, like a co-working space in Hong Kong.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Um, so I guess when you think about that lifestyle,
Hmm.
um, it's easy to see the appeal, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like who wouldn't want to set their own hours
Yeah.
and travel the world and experience new cultures?
Right. And
Oh.
potentially even make more money.
Yeah, you can definitely tap into a global market
Right.
and have access to more opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important to acknowledge that it's not always easy.
Right. It's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, there are definitely challenges.
Yeah. Like unreliable Wi-Fi for one,
Oh yeah, that's a big one,
that can be a huge pain.
especially if you're on a deadline.
Right. Or just trying to have a video call.
Exactly.
And then there's time zone differences,
Yeah, it can be tricky.
like trying to schedule meetings with people all over the world.
Especially if you're working with clients or collaborators in different time zones.
Yeah. And then, there's the whole visa situation,
Yeah, that can be a real headache.
like figuring out how to legally stay in different countries.
Right, because a lot of countries don't have specific visas for digital nomads.
All right. So you have to do your research and find the right visa for your situation.
And, even then it can be really complicated.
Yeah. And then there's the potential for loneliness,
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people don't think about.
right? You're constantly on the move.
And you might not have a strong support system in place.
Yeah. And then, there's the whole income instability thing.
Yeah, that can be tough.
Your income might fluctuate from month to month.
Especially if you're freelancing or running your own business.
Right. And then there's healthcare,
Yeah, that's another big word.
like figuring out healthcare in different countries.
Right, because your health insurance might not cover you overseas.
Yeah. So you have to do your research and find a plan that works for you.
And it can be expensive.
Yeah. And there's the potential for burnout.
Yeah, that's a real risk.
You're always working.
And you might not be taking enough breaks.
Right. Because your work is always with you.
Exactly.
So yeah, there are definitely challenges.
But, for a lot of people, the rewards outweigh the risks.
Right. The freedom and flexibility and the opportunity to travel the world.
Yeah, and the chance to experience new things and meet new people.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's not for everyone,
Right.
but it can be an amazing lifestyle if it's right for you.
And that's kind of, what we want to explore in this deep dive
Okay.
is, whether or not Hong Kong is a good place for digital nomads.
Yeah, because it's definitely an interesting city.
Yeah, it's got a lot to offer.
It's got incredible infrastructure.
Right, the internet is super fast.
Yeah, one of the fastest in the world.
And there's a ton of co-working spaces.
Yeah, and a really vibrant cafe scene.
Yeah, it's a really cool setting.
It's a great place to be if you're a digital nomad.
Yeah, and, websites like moveandstay.com,
Mm-hmm.
which have been connecting business travelers and expats in Asia with accommodation and workspaces
Right.
for over 25 years.
Yeah.
They highlight Hong Kong as a key destination.
Mm.
So, yeah, that's kind of what we're going to be looking at today.
Sure.
Is, what you need to know if you're considering setting up shop in Hong Kong as a digital nomad.
Sounds good.
So I guess the first question is can you even be a digital nomad in Hong Kong?
Right, well, that's a good place to start.
Yeah, what's the visa situation?
Yeah, so the thing is, Hong Kong doesn't have a specific digital nomad visa.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so unlike some other countries that have created tailored pathways for remote workers,
Mm-hmm.
you'll need to consider the existing visa options.
Okay, so what are those options?
Well, the two main ones that are relevant for digital nomads
Mm-hmm.
are the investment as entrepreneurs visa
Okay.
and the quality migrant admission scheme visa, or QMAS.
UMAS. Okay, so let's break those down one by one.
Okay.
So the investment is entrepreneurs visa. Like, who is that for?
So, as the name suggests, it's primarily for people who are planning to start or invest in a business in Hong Kong. But it also caters to individuals who are willing to make a substantial financial investment.
How substantial are we talking?
We're talking a minimum of 30 million Hong Kong dollars,
Oh.
which is about 3.85 million US dollars.
Okay, so that's not really an option for most people.
Right. It's definitely aimed at a specific group.
So what about the other requirements?
Well, you need to be at least 18 years old,
Okay.
have a clean criminal record,
Hmm.
and possess a good educational background, relevant technical qualifications, or significant professional experience.
Okay.
And you also need to demonstrate that your business venture will make a substantial contribution to Hong Kong's economy.
Okay, so it's not just enough to have a business idea.
Right. You need to show that your business will benefit Hong Kong.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So what about the QMAS visa?
Okay, so the QMAS visa is a points-based system
Okay.
that assesses your application based on your skills and experience.
So it's kind of like they're trying to attract talented individuals to Hong Kong. Okay, so what kind of factors do they consider?
Well, they look at your age,
Mm-hmm.
your academic and professional qualifications,
Okay.
your work experience, your language proficiency,
Mm-hmm.
and even your family background.
Interesting.
So it's a pretty comprehensive evaluation.
Yeah, it sounds pretty competitive.
It is. It's a competitive scheme.
So what would you need to do to have a strong application?
Well, you need to highlight your relevant skills and experience
Okay.
and explain why you would be a valuable asset to Hong Kong.
Okay.
And you also need to be patient because the processing time can be quite lengthy.
Okay, so that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems like, the visa situation in Hong Kong is not as straightforward as in some other countries.
Right. It's definitely something you need to research carefully.
Okay, so let's say you figured out the visa situation.
Mm-hmm.
What about accommodation?
Yeah, so accommodation in Hong Kong can be quite varied.
Okay.
You'll find everything from budget-friendly options to high-end luxury apartments.
Right.
And websites like moveandstay.com
Yeah.
can be really helpful for finding a place to stay.
Yeah, they have listings for both short-term and long-term stays.
Right.
So what about short-term stays?
So for short-term stays, you have a few options.
Okay.
You could try couch surfing,
Oh.
which is a really budget-friendly way to meet locals.
Yeah?
Or you could stay in an Airbnb or a hostel,
Okay.
which will give you more privacy, but will obviously cost more.
Right.
And these are all good options if you're just arriving in Hong Kong
Yeah.
and you want to get a feel for the city before you commit to a longer-term stay.
Okay, so what about long-term stays?
So for long-term stays, you'll probably want to look at local property listings.
Okay.
There are websites like Hong Kong Asia, Expat Square Foot, and GeoExpat,
Mm-hmm.
which list a wide range of properties.
Okay.
And you can often find good deals if you're willing to negotiate.
Okay.
But be prepared to pay a security deposit and the first month's rent up front.
Okay.
And you'll usually have to sign a lease for a fixed term, like a year or two.
Okay. What about co-living spaces?
Yeah, co-living spaces are becoming increasingly popular in Hong Kong.
Yep.
And they're a good option if you want something in between a private apartment and a hostel.
Okay.
So you'll typically have your own bedroom, but you'll share communal areas like the kitchen and the living room.
Okay.
And this can be a great way to meet people,
Yeah.
especially if you're new to the city.
And a lot of co-living spaces also have dedicated workspaces.
Yeah, and they're often fully furnished with utilities included.
So that's convenient.
Definitely.
So yeah, it seems like there are a lot of different accommodation options in Hong Kong.
Yeah, there's someone for everyone.
So what would be your advice for finding a place to stay?
Well, I would say take your time, do your research, and don't be afraid to negotiate.
Okay.
And think about the location in relation to public transport and amenities.
Right, like grocery stores and gyms and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say you found a place to stay. Where can you work?
So Hong Kong has a really great cafe culture,
Oh.
and there are also a lot of co-working spaces,
Mhm.
and websites like moveandstay.com often list these options as well.
Okay, so what are some of the cafes that you would recommend?
Well, a few that are popular with digital nomads are the Coffee Academics,
Yep.
NOC, Coffee Co.,
Mm.
and Percent Arabica.
Okay.
But there are tons of other great cafes out there.
Yeah, you just have to explore a little
Yeah.
bit.
Right.
So what about co-working spaces?
So co-working spaces are a great option if you want a more structured work environment.
Okay.
And they usually have amenities like high-speed internet printing facilities, meeting rooms.
Okay.
And some of the popular brands in Hong Kong are WeWork, the Hive, and Garage Society.
Okay, so there's a lot of options there too.
Yeah.
What about outdoor spaces?
So if you want to work outside,
Mm-hmm.
there are a few options, but the Wi-Fi might not be as reliable.
Okay.
Cyberport has outdoor seating areas with harbor views.
Yep.
Hong Kong Park has quiet benches amidst greenery.
Mm-hmm.
And the Peak offers spectacular panoramic views of the city.
Okay, so those are all good options.
Yeah, but I would recommend having a backup plan for internet access.
Right, like a mobile data plan or something.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered visas, accommodation, and workspaces.
Mm-hmm.
What about the cost of living?
So Hong Kong is known for being quite expensive.
Yeah.
But it's definitely possible to live there on a budget.
Okay.
You just need to be mindful of your spending.
So what are some of the costs that you should be aware of?
Well, accommodation is probably going to be your biggest expense.
Yeah.
Hostels are the cheapest option, but they can be quite basic.
Okay.
Apartments can be quite expensive, especially if you want to live in a central location.
Right.
And co-living spaces are somewhere in between.
Okay.
Food can be quite affordable if you eat at local restaurants.
Right.
But it can get expensive if you eat out all the time.
Right.
Transportation is relatively cheap and efficient, especially if you use the Octopus card.
What's the octopus card?
So the Octopus card is a rechargeable card that you can use for all forms of public transport.
Oh, okay.
And you can also use it to pay for things at convenience stores and supermarkets.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really convenient.
And then there's entertainment.
Yeah, entertainment can be quite expensive in Hong Kong.
Okay.
But there are also a lot of free things to do.
Like what?
Well, you can go hiking in the country parks.
Okay.
You can visit the temples.
Mm-hmm.
You can explore the different neighborhoods.
Yeah.
There's always something to do.
So, yeah, it seems like, Hong Kong can be expensive,
Yeah.
but it's definitely possible to live there on a budget.
Right.
If you're smart about your spending.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered the practical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What about the cultural side of things?
So Hong Kong is a really interesting mix of cultures.
Okay.
It's a very international city.
Yeah.
But it also has a strong Chinese heritage.
Right.
So it's important to be respectful of local customs.
Okay, so what are some things that I should be aware of?
Well, it's considered polite to use both hands when you give or receive a business card.
Oh.
And you should avoid sticking your chopsticks upright in a bowl of rice.
Okay.
Because that's associated with death.
Got it.
And it's also a good idea to learn a few basic Cantonese phrases.
Like what?
Well, hello is nei hao.
Nei hao.
Yeah, thank you is duje.
Duje?
Yeah, excuse me, is mongol yisi.
Unguyisi?
Yeah, and goodbye is joijin.
Gurjin.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, just by learning a few basic phrases, you can show that you're making an effort to respect the local culture.
Right.
And it can really go a long way.
Okay, so what about networking?
So Hong Kong is a great place to network.
Okay.
There are a lot of industry events and meetups, and people are generally very open to connecting.
Okay, so what are some tips for networking in Hong Kong?
Well, I would say attend industry events,
Okay.
join co-working spaces, use online platforms like LinkedIn,
All right.
and just be yourself and be genuine.
Right.
People can spot a fake a mile away.
Yeah.
So just be yourself and be interested in other people.
Okay.
And you'll be surprised at how many connections you can make.
So it seems like, Hong Kong is a good place for digital nomads who are looking to network.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So let's talk about getting around.
Okay.
What's the best way to get around Hong Kong?
So Hong Kong has an amazing public transportation system.
Okay.
It's cheap, efficient, and easy to use.
Okay.
And I would definitely recommend getting an Octopus card.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
So what are the different types of public transport?
Well, there's the MTR, which is the subway system.
Okay.
There are buses.
Mm-hmm.
There are trams.
Okay.
And there are ferries.
Okay.
So you can pretty much get anywhere you want to go by public transport.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What about apps?
So there are a few apps that are really helpful for getting around Hong Kong. Okay. City Mapper is a great app for planning your journey.
Okay.
It shows you all the different transport options and it gives you real-time updates.
Okay, that's useful.
Yeah, OpenRice is a good app for finding restaurants.
Okay.
It has reviews and ratings, and you can search by cuisine, location, price range.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, the Octopus app is useful for checking your balance and topping up your card.
Okay.
And the Hong Kong Observatory app is essential for checking the weather.
Right, especially during typhoon season.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so those are all good apps to have.
Yeah.
Um, so what about exploring the city?
So Hong Kong has a lot to offer beyond the main tourist attractions.
Okay.
You can go hiking in the country parks.
Yeah.
You can visit the outlying islands.
Hmm.
You can explore the different neighborhoods.
Yeah.
There's something for everyone.
So what are some of your recommendations?
Well, I would recommend hiking the Dragon's Back Trail.
Okay.
It's a beautiful hike with stunning views of the coastline. I would also recommend visiting the Big Buddha and Polin Monastery on Lantau Island.
Okay.
It's a really peaceful and serene place.
Okay.
And I would also recommend exploring the street markets in Mongkok.
Okay.
It's a really vibrant and chaotic area, but it's a lot of fun.
Okay, so there's a lot to see and do in Hong Kong.
Yeah, definitely.
So what's your overall impression of Hong Kong as a place for digital nomads?
Well, I think Hong Kong is a great city for digital nomads.
Okay.
It has everything you need to work and live comfortably.
Mm.
The internet is fast, the transportation is efficient, and there are plenty of co-working spaces and cafes.
Yeah.
But it's also an expensive city.
Right.
So you need to be prepared to budget carefully.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to put in the effort,
Mm-hmm.
I think Hong Kong can be a really rewarding place to live and work.
So yeah, I think that's a good note to end on.
Yeah.
So if you're considering Hong Kong as a base for your digital nomad lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
do your research and see if it's the right fit for you.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right.
There are a lot of resources available to help you plan your move.
Yeah. So whether you see yourself working from a trendy cafe in Central,
Mm-hmm.
or a co-working space with stunning harbor views,
Yeah,
there's something for everyone in Hong Kong.
definitely.
So that's all the time we have for this deep dive.
Okay,
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
sounds good.
Bye.